All right, Shalom. First and foremost, before I get started, I'm going to give all glory and honor to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, Bashem, Rakak Badash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders at Great Millstone who taught me this truth, and peace and salutations to the elect feeding the sheep of Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, with sincerity, with truth, and with charity. Yahweh is the true holy name of the Heavenly Father, in which the world ignorantly calls God. Bahashem means in the name of. Yahushai is the true name of the Son, in which the world ignorantly calls JC. His true name is Yahushai. And once again, Lord willing, this will be an edifying lesson. And the title of this lesson will be Wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth. Right? Because that's the spirit that basically is you're seeing now. You're seeing, wickedness at an all-time high, and it's going to get even worse. For these people, it's going to get even worse. And so, you're seeing, all this, adultery, sodomy, right? You're seeing, and, it's at an all-time high, right? And the Lord put it on my spirit to speak about this. So the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai put it on my spirit to speak about these things, and basically, this earth is polluted and it's at an all-time high, right? And this is the book of 2 Esdras 15:6. It says, "For wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled." Right, and you're seeing this because ultimately this devil Esau Edom, he's still in rulership. And he's at his last, moments of rulership. This devil Esau Edom, also known as the so-called white man. You're seeing, and the reason why everybody's so wicked, ultimately is because the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, he put Esau Edom in rulership to, to control these people, to, ultimately as a punishment for our disobedience, right? So he put the wicked in rulership, right? That's good. Bear with me. This is the book of Job 9:24. It says, "The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he?" Right. So the earth is given into the wicked, which is Esau. Right, that's why you see, these Edomites, they're the highest, right now in this society, they control everything, right? They control the banks, they control, they have the, control of all these different, companies, Fortune 500 companies, different lands are named after them. They have ownership in huge amounts of land, you see, ultimately it's all in vain, right? But what else you see? Amalek, which is the head tribe of Esau, which are those tiny tops living in that land of the 1948ers, if you know what I'm speaking about, right? Basically, these people, they own all the corn companies, right? And then on top of these corn companies, they play videos of gay porn, adultery, stepsister, stepbro videos, mother and son sleeping together, crazy shit. Right? Shit that's completely off. Shit that's completely wicked, man. 5 dudes, fucking 1 woman. You got 5 black dudes, fucking 1 Edomite woman. You got fucking 6 Edomite dudes. Akeisha. Right? So you got all this wickedness, just crazy shit. Right? This is the type of things that are promoted in this society. You got the biggest gay pride festival, right? If I just look this up real quick, biggest pride festival right? Also in the land of the tiny tops, right? It says, that place is set to host, Israel is set to host Pride Land, a 4-day LGBTQ festival at the Dead Sea from June 1st to the 4th of 2026. Organized describe it as the largest Pride event in the history of Middle East, featuring non-stop celebrations, community events, and cultural programming in the Judean desert, right? So you're seeing wickedness pollute this whole earth. Seeing wickedness pollute this whole earth, and it's getting at an all-time high. That's how we know we're at the end, right? Let's bring this out. Let's see. Bear with me, Akim. This is the book of Isaiah 1 and 9, right? It says, "Except the Lord of hosts had left unto us as a very small remnant, we should have been as Sodom, and we should have been like unto Gomorrah." Right? So we would have been like these people if the Lord didn't have mercy on us, our people of Israel, right? Which includes you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, and you Israelite foreigners, right? We were scattered amongst the heathens, right? We could have been like these fucking people, man. And that's how we know we're at the very end, right? And let's bring that and if it wasn't for the Lord having mercy on us, we would have been like these people. We would have been like these, these sodomites, these 2/3 in the world. Right? This is the book of Ezra chapter 9, verse 13. It says, "And after all that has come upon us for our evil deeds and for our great trespass, seeing that thou, our Yahweh, has punished us less than our iniquities deserve, and has given us such deliverance as this." Continuing on. "Should we again break thy commandments and join in affinity with the people of these abominations? Wouldst not thou be angry with us till thou hast consumed us, so that there should be no remnant nor escaping?" Right? So, the Lord, the Lord ultimately, he punished us, less than our iniquities deserve, right? And for these people, if it wasn't for the Lord's mercy, we would have been like Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And the rest of these, evil ass people, right? And ultimately their judgment, right, is nuclear missile fire. They're gonna be destroyed by those nuclear missiles, right? The Lord could have just left, all of Israel to be destroyed by nuclear missiles. He could have left all of us for judgment, right? But ultimately, the Lord has mercy. Has everlasting mercy on His people, right? And that's why you have to be thankful to Yahweh Shemi Shai, right? Let's see. Yeah, so we would have ended up being like these people, right? And you're seeing, and we're at the very end of this thing now. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna see the judgment. We're in our timeline, we're gonna see the judgment of these people, man. We're gonna see the judgment of America, America, Babylon the Great, right? We're gonna see the judgment of these heathens, the downfall of our enemy. We're gonna see the downfall of Esau, Edom, right? And we're gonna see Yahushua come back to crack the skies. And, that's how we know we're in the very end. Because wickedness has exceedingly polluted the whole earth, right? And it's at an all-time high, right? And it's gonna get a lot more worse for these people, right? When all hell breaks loose. Right? This is the book of Isaiah chapter 13, verse 19. It says, "And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldeans, excellency, shall be as when Yahweh overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah." Right? And ultimately, this is speaking about America, Babylon the Great, right? Because Babylon wasn't destroyed with fire like Sodom and Gomorrah was, right? Ancient Babylon wasn't destroyed with fire. right? It was actually it was a relatively non-violent takeover, right? It was relatively it was it didn't require crazy amounts of destruction. When Babylon was taken over, it wasn't there wasn't no explosions or fire raining from the heavens, right? There was none of that, right? So this is how we know that America the scripture is speaking about America, Babylon the Great, right? Which is spiritual Babylon, right? Which will ultimately is a reincarnation of the Babylonian Empire, right? I'm going to read it one more time. It says, "And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldeans, excellency, shall be as when Yahweh overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah." Right. So that's how we know the Lord is. He's going to come back with those nuclear fire, right? Let's bring this out. Zechariah 14:12. This is the book of Zechariah 14, verse 12. It says, "This is the plague with which the Lord will strike all the nations that fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh will rot while they are still standing on their feet. Their eyes will rot in their sockets, and their tongues will rot in their mouths." Right, so that's what's coming to these wicked ass people, right? And you can't feel envious when you see these people, right? Because sometimes demons want to hop on you and show oh, these people have such a great life, they're living such a good life while you're just staying at home. What are you doing? You'll have demons like that hop on you, but you have to realize that these people, they're gonna get destroyed, man. They're all that partying, all that laboring hard, all that money they grinded for. It's all gonna be done in vain. It's all gonna be done, in vain, and all of that is gonna be done in vain. Right? This is the book of Luke, chapter 6, verse 25. It says, "Woe unto you that are full, for ye shall hunger. Woe unto you that laugh now, for ye shall mourn and weep." Right? So you're seeing these people party and have a great time. They're always at these different events, right? Now you're seeing these fucking sodomites they're gonna have their upcoming festival, right? Or you're seeing people scammers, crypto scammers and OnlyFans, people, they make what you make in a year, and in a single fucking day, doing some wicked shit, stealing, selling their body online, right? That's how we're in the end, bro. And I got this next precept. This is the book of Proverbs 13:11. It says, "Dishonest wealth will dwindle." Let's grab this Salakia. Let's grab the translation. Proverbs 13 and verse 11. It says, "Wealth gotten by vanity shall be diminished, but he that gathers by labor shall increase." Right? And you're seeing the majority of these people, they're, all the work that they've done, it was in vain, right? But what we're doing is, is a is ultimately the most profitable thing we can do, right? Even if we have a so-called even if we have a so-called boring life, right? You might stay at home for the majority of the day, or just go to work, and after you come from work, you might come home and just do some lessons, right? Or you do camp, or you don't really do any other activities, right? You might go exercise. You might eat some basic food, right? You might live in in a modest house, right? But ultimately what we're doing, right? Despite all that, what we're doing is profitable. I'd rather be one of those people that does the work of the Lord than lives one of these fucking grand lifestyles, right? With all this fucking bullshit, because all that just fucking nonsense, bro. We have the men of Yahweh Shem Shai. We have the biggest investment, right? Ultimately we get to do the work of the Lord, right? The rest of these people, that they're not doing the work of the Lord, so fuck them. they're everything they've done is just is done in vain, right? And we're storing up our treasures for the kingdom, right? So we don't need these, we don't need all this other shit. All this other shit is just trash, right? Let's see. This is the book of 1 Thessalonians, chapter 5, verse 2. It says, "For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night." Continuing on. It says, "For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with a child, and they shall not escape." Right? So you're seeing the birth pains of this earth, right? You're seeing the birth pain, the birth pains, right? And you're with that, you're seeing wickedness exceedingly pollute this whole earth, right? You're seeing wickedness at an all-time high, right? And it's gonna get even worse. Trust me, it's gonna get even worse during Jacob's trouble. Let's bring this out. Because there's still more that's going to happen. Jeremiah 30:7. Actually, Jeremiah 30:6. It says, "Ask ye now, and see whether a man doeth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it." Right? So ultimately, can a man give birth? No. Right? So why are these men are gonna have their hands on their stomach like a pregnant woman? Ultimately, it's gonna be because it's gonna be so bad out here for them. They're gonna be starving with famine. They're gonna be in pain, right? And they're also gonna be in so much like shock from what they're seeing. They're gonna be basically bugged out, right? But you're gonna see get the fuck out of here, man. Stupid ass ad. Slovakia, but yeah, you're gonna see these people. They were living such a great life before, but they're gonna be literally like women with their hand on their stomach, because they're gonna be hunger, pain, mental shock, right? They're gonna be seeing things that aren't there, right? They're gonna have animals after them, right? But that's a whole different topic for a different video, right? But we know where. But anyways, this is how we know we're at the end, because we're seeing wickedness pollute this entire earth. Wickedness is at an all-time high, right? So I'm gonna end the lesson right there. Lord willing, this was edifying. I'm gonna give all glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahushai, Ba'Hashem, Rakakwadash, and double honors to the apostles and elders at Great Millstone who teach and rule well, and peace and salutations to the elect feeding sheep of Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahushai. Shalom.